Welcome once again, my fellow manipulators of digital fate. I'm Richie, this is Capricorn, and today we're back at it with another spoiler video for Magic the Gathering's Avatar: The Last Airbender expansion. Except this one's a little bit different. This one is covering all of the Jumpstart cards specifically that are coming to this set. For those of you that don't know, Jumpstart is sort of like an alternate format / release where they have a whole bunch of half decks themed around different things within the set, and then you take two of those half decks, smash them together to make one full deck, and then compete in games with those decks. Now, it's worth noting there are a ton of exclusive cards coming specifically to Jumpstart that are not standard legal. They're not coming to the standard legal booster packs, but they are kind of relevant because you can use them in older formats, you can use them in Brawl and Commander and stuff like that, so they're definitely worth going over. So we're going to cover every single Jumpstart exclusive card in this video. That being said, there are a ton of cards, especially the commons and the uncommons, that are aimed at newer players that are very simple and straightforward. So we're going to try and speed through most of these cards and just get through them as quick as we can. But when we do encounter an interesting uncommon or rare that I think is worth going over a little bit more in depth, we will linger just a little bit longer on those cards and cover them more in depth. So before we get started, please like the video. All of you guys that have been liking the videos all along, it helps me so much. Thank you. It helps me get the video out to more people. It helps the channel grow. And if you're new here, please subscribe because we have a ton more spoiler content on the way, a ton of deck techs as well coming down the line, lots of interesting stuff coming to the channel, so hit that subscribe button. But without further ado, let's start with the lands. Here we have Thriving Heath, an example of a land that enters tapped, and as it enters, you choose another color, and this thing can tap to make white and whatever color you choose. But there's one of these for each color. So we also have Thriving Isle, which gives you blue automatically plus whatever other color you choose. And then we have one for black, Thriving Moor. We have one for red, Thriving Bluff. And we have one for green, Thriving Grove. These work really well in Jumpstart because they let you mix the half decks that have one of these that is maybe all green cards with another half deck that might be any number of colors, like whatever color, and you can just choose that color. So I do think these are worth having specifically for Jumpstart as a way to have like a common land. Next up, we have our only colorless card coming to Jumpstart. This is Mechanical Glider, a 1-cost artifact equipment that equips for 2. Equipped creature has flying, and when this equipment enters, you attach it to target creature you control. So for just 1 mana, any creature you have is going to gain flying, but then if that thing dies, or if you want to move this, for another 2 mana, you can just move it around the battlefield and put it on whatever you want. Next up, we've got the white cards, starting here with Aang's Defense, an instant for 1 white mana. Target blocking creature you control gets +2/+2 until end of turn, and you also draw a card. Cantrips are always good. Next up, we have Aardvark Sloth, a 3/3 sloth beast with lifelink for 1 white and 3. Moving on, we have Kyoshi Warrior Guard, a 2/3 human warrior ally for 1 white and 1. It's worth noting that this has the ally subtype, and allies do seem like they're going to be very relevant in this set, specifically for limited play, so that might actually matter a fair bit. Next up, we've got Path to Redemption. This is an enchantment aura for 1 white and 1. Enchants a creature, enchanted creature can't attack or block, so essentially a pacifism, but you also have the ability to pay 5 colorless mana and sacrifice the aura, exile enchanted creature, create a 1/1 white ally creature token, but activate only during your turn. So it's a pacifism for now, and then at some point down the line, if it's more important to just completely get rid of it because the creature has an ability that it's still generating or whatever the case may be, you can pay that 5 mana and just get rid of it entirely, and also get a little bit of extra value giving yourself a 1/1 token. Next up, we've got Razor Rings, an instant for 1 white and 1. It deals 4 damage to target attacking or blocking creature, and you gain life equal to the excess damage dealt this way. This is actually really interesting. I like that you can gain a bunch of life to mitigate maybe if you're up against aggro and help survive a little bit longer to get to where you need to in the game, while also being removal that can hit pretty relevant targets up to 4 toughness. Next up, we've got Sledding Otter Penguin, a 2/3 otter bird for 1 white and 2, and you can pay 3 to put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Nothing crazy, just a simple common that fills in the deck. Next up, we've got Tundra Wall, a 0/4 wall with Defender for 1 white and 1. I guess this card's interesting just for the sake of introducing walls to normal players, to newer players, and introducing the idea of Defender. Next up, we've got Wolf Cove Villager. I actually think this card's pretty good. This is a 2/2 human peasant for just 1 white mana, but it enters tapped. So you're not going to be able to block with it the first turn that it's out, but after that, it's still a 2/2 that only ever costs you 1 white mana. We have come a long way since Savannah Alliance, for sure. Next up, we've got Appa, Aang's Companion, a 2/4 legendary bison ally with flying for 1 white and 3, and whenever Appa attacks, another target attacking creature without flying gains flying until end of turn. This is going to be really, really good in limited formats like Jumpstart. The flying, the evasion is going to get you through their defenses, but more importantly, give your best other creature flying as well. Cards that have done this in the past have statistically been good in limited formats, and I expect the same for Appa here. Next up, we've got Katara Heroic Healer, a 2/3 legendary human warrior ally with lifelink for 1 white and 4, and when Katara enters, you put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control. Honestly, not too bad if you're going super wide with creatures. I mean, it wouldn't be anywhere near good enough for Constructed for something like Standard, but again, these aren't standard legal cards. As far as Jumpstart is concerned, I actually think this is a pretty relevant body with lifelink, with a pretty relevant ability as long as you're going wide enough. Next up, we've got Momo Rambunctious Rascal, a 1/1 legendary lemur bat ally with flying for 1 white and 2, and when Momo enters, he deals 4 damage to target tapped creature an opponent controls. I actually think this card is going to be super good. Getting a 1/1 flyer kind of for free, that's also just your removal spell that kills one of their better tapped creatures up to 4 toughness, actually seems super good, especially in a format like Jumpstart. But next up, we've got Sokka Wolf Cove's Protector. This is a 3/3 legendary human warrior ally for 1 white and 2, and it has Vigilance. So just a 3/3 Vigilance for 3, nothing super crazy. And actually, I believe it's pronounced Sokka, not Sokka. Let me know in the comments if I'm getting that right or wrong. I remember I did a spoiler short recently, and I think I mispronounced it. So let me know in the comments. Next up, we've got our first rare. This is Aang Air Nomad, a 5/4 legendary human avatar ally with flying for 2 white and 3. He also has Vigilance, and other creatures you control have Vigilance. Now, this is a card that I actually want to talk about, because if you guys have already seen some of my other Avatar: The Last Airbender spoiler videos, then you've seen the way that firebending, airbending, waterbending, and airbending all work. Waterbending in particular allows you to tap your creatures to pay for the waterbending cost to generate a certain ability, and the abilities are very varied. They're all over the place, but the constant is the fact that you can tap creatures to help pay for the ability instead of having to just spend mana. Sometimes you can just spend no mana and use abilities for free using waterbending to instead, tap however many creatures you need to pay for the entire cost. Something like this that gives your entire board Vigilance is going to be really, really good with waterbending, because you can actually attack in with everything, and then before your opponent declares blockers, tap them all down to pay for an instant speed waterbending ability. And we've seen a number of really good ones. Some of them allow you to play spells for free, or just buff up your team to an insane degree. There's a lot of really crazy, bomby waterbending abilities. I don't know for sure if any of that stuff we've seen for the standard set will be relevant in Jumpstart in particular, but at the very least, something like this that gives everything Vigilance is definitely going to be really good if you pair it with waterbending, so keep that in mind. Next up, we've got Allied Teamwork. This is an enchantment for 1 white and 2. When it enters, you create a 1/1 white ally creature token, and allies you control get +1/+1. If you are deep enough into Ally Tribal, this actually ends up being super good. It kind of feels like a wedding announcement, except it gives you a token right away. That token is a 2/2 right away, because you also get the buff, the Anthem effect right away. Whereas with older cards like Wedding Announcement, it would give you a token at end of turn for 3 turns, and then eventually turn into an Anthem after it's done giving you the tokens. More value that way, but you get less value right away. With a card like this, you get the value all right away, and that can be relevant, especially if you're playing a very aggressive deck or a tempo-oriented deck, just utilizing that value now and ending the game quicker rather than having to wait to get all of it. Next up, we have the last white card that's coming as an exclusive to Jumpstart. This is Aang Airbending Master. This is a mythic, a 4/4 legendary human avatar ally for 1 white and 4. When he enters, you airbend another target creature, which means you exile it, and while it's exiled, its owner may cast it for 2 rather than its mana cost. This is actually super relevant for a couple different reasons. First of all, if you airbend something of theirs, it can be temporary removal, and if the thing you ended up airbending was a 1-drop, they actually have to spend more mana to recast it than they initially spent. But you can also use this on your own stuff, and you can exile your own creature so that you can replay it for 2 if you want to retrigger Enters the Battlefield abilities or anything like that. So it is a very versatile ability. I really like it. Also, whenever 1 or more creatures you control leave the battlefield without dying, you get an experience counter. So if you do use that airbending on your own creature, you also get an experience counter out of it, which is just even more gravy. And then he has a third ability. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 white ally creature token for each experience counter you have. So obviously, if you're able to pair Aang with other cards, with other half decks maybe that have things that give you experience counters or give you more value for the experience counters you have, you can kind of snowball exponential value out of multiple experience cards. But even if you're just using it for its primary ability, you know, to bounce something back, to replay it, to get an experience counter and make a 1/1, there is a lot of value in this card, which makes sense because it's a mythic. Next up, we've got blue. This is Deny Entry, an instant for 1 blue and 2, counter target creature spell, and then draw a card and discard a card. Next up is Flying Dolphin Fish, a whale fish that's a 1/3 flyer for 1 blue and 1. And then we have Turtle Seals, a 2/4 vigilance turtle seal for 1 blue and 3. Moving on, we have Lost in the Spirit World. This is a sorcery for 1 blue and 2, return up to 1 target creature to its owner's hand, create a 1/1 colorless spirit creature token. With this token can't block or be blocked by non-spirit creatures. So it almost feels like it has Shadow in a way, if any of you guys remember Shadow, where Shadow creatures could only block or be blocked by other creatures with Shadow. It looks like this is creating a spirit that's kind of functionally working in a similar way. But you also get to return a creature to its owner's hand, and you can use that to bounce your own thing to replay to get value, or you can use it to get like a tempo advantage on your opponent and get rid of one of their problematic threats for a limited time, which I think is pretty good. Next up, we've got the Terror of Serpent's Pass, an 8/8 legendary serpent with hexproof for 2 blue and 5. This thing is massive and massively expensive. That being said, it is Jumpstart, so it might not be too expensive, but again, it also might be. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Next up, we've got another rare, Water Whip. This one is a sorcery lesson for 2 blue mana, and you return up to 2 target creatures to their owner's hands and draw 2 cards, which is a ton for 2 mana. That being said, there is a caveat. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you have to Waterbend 5, which means it could end up costing you a total of 7 mana, 2 blue plus the 5 colorless, if you don't have any creatures that you want to tap down to pay for the waterbending. That being said, waterbending is an ability that specifically lets you tap down a creature to pay for each 1 colorless that you want. So you could tap up to 5 creatures to pay for that entire 5 colorless to waterbend the entire 5, and then this does only cost you 2 blue mana if you do that. Under the right circumstances, I actually think this card is really insane. Getting to bounce 2 things and draw 2 cards is a ton of tempo advantage and a ton of card advantage, and could just be super, super good in a go wide deck. You just have to make sure that you pair this with another half deck that will give you the ability to go wide with a whole bunch of creatures quick, even if they're just like 1/1 ally tokens. That way you can use Water Whip to its full efficiency. Next up, we've got the mythic Katara Waterbending Master, a 1/3 legendary human warrior ally for 1 blue and 1. Whenever you cast a spell during an opponent's turn, you get an experience counter, so another card that's going to pair really well with Aang, although I highly doubt you get both mythics in 2 separate half decks, but anything's possible. She also has another ability. Whenever she attacks, you may draw a card for each experience counter you have, and if you do, discard a card. So the more experience counters, the more you draw, but no matter what, you're only discarding one. So this can actually get you a ton of card advantage if you've been able to gain a bunch of experience counters over the course of the game. Next up, we're moving on to black. This is Elephant Rat, a 1/3 elephant rat with menace for 1 black and 1. I just love that it's an elephant and a rat. You can actually use this in Rat Tribal potentially, although not in Standard because it's not Standard legal. Next up, we've got Feed the Swarm, a sorcery for 1 black and 1. You destroy target creature or enchantment an opponent controls and lose life equal to that permanent's mana value. I guess it's nice that black has access to some enchantment destruction within Jumpstart, although it's still always going to feel weird when black gets enchantment destruction, at least to me. Next up, we have Fire Nation Ambushers, a 3/2 human soldier with flash for 1 black and 2. Nice little trick you can play. Next up, we've got Gillicorn, a 1/1 lizard with death touch for just 1 black mana. I kind of wish this one was standard legal because it might actually be a good inclusion to like a standard lizards deck, which I think could be a little bit more relevant if it just had a couple more cards. A 1/1 with Death Touch is nothing to scoff at, especially when it can trigger all of your lizard synergies. But in Jumpstart, it's basically just going to be a 1/1 Death Toucher. I clearly need some coffee. Next up, we've got Purple Pentapus. Say that 5 times fast. This is a 1/1 Octopus Starfish, and when this creature enters, you surveil 1. It costs only 1 black mana, and for 1 black and 2, you can tap an untapped creature you control, return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped, which will then re-trigger the enters, and you'll get to surveil 1 all over again. Pretty interesting card. Just get it out early for 1. Every time it dies, keep bringing it back by just tapping one of your creatures and paying some mana. It's obviously going to be better in any kind of deck that's built around like sacrifice themes. You can sacrifice this over and over to get value. So if there are any half decks that are kind of hinging on sacrifice, this is going to be a really good one to pair with that. Next up, we've got Fire Nation Sentinels, the first black rare. This is a 4/4 human soldier for 2 black and 3. And whenever a non-token creature an opponent controls dies, you put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. This is really good if you can actually get it to stick the landing, especially in a format like Jumpstart. If they don't kill it and it survives the turn cycle and you have enough removal, you can just start going ham, just removing all of their stuff one by one and just buffing your entire team into high hell by doing so. That being said, most of the time this probably just dies to removal right away. 5 mana is a lot, but at the same time it's Jumpstart, so who knows. Next up, we've got Lion Vulture, a 2/2 cat bird with flying for 1 black and 3, and at the beginning of your end step, if an opponent lost life this turn, you put a +1/+1 counter on this creature and draw a card. This is actually going to be really, really good in Jumpstart because it's straight up card advantage. Now, you do have to make sure you're getting in for damage, but with this having flying, it's going to be a lot easier for you to get through for damage. Now, if this was standard, 4 mana would definitely be too much. But for something like Jumpstart, a flyer that's going to get through for damage every turn, get bigger every turn, and draw you a card every turn is actually going to be super good. This makes me think that maybe I'll be choosing black half decks when I play this format. But next up, we've got the Mythic in black. This is Fire Lord Ozai, a 4/4 legendary human noble for 1 black and 3. Whenever Fire Lord Ozai attacks, you may sacrifice another creature, and if you do, add an amount of red mana equal to the sacrificed creature's power, and until end of combat, you don't lose this mana as step's end. So it's sort of like Firebending. It works the same way as Firebending, except you have to sacrifice a creature. Whereas with Firebending, it would say Firebending and then a number. Firebending 3 would give you 3 red mana when you attack. Firebending 5 would give you 5 red mana when you attack. It's weird to me that they didn't actually call this ability Firebending, but there is a notable caveat where you're getting mana equal to the sacrificed creature's power. You're not getting a specific numbered amount like with Firebending. So I guess it kind of makes sense. It also has a 6 mana ability, exile the top card of each opponent's library, and until end of turn you may play one of those cards without paying its mana cost. So even if you don't have anything at instant speed to use that mana, because it does go away at the end of combat, so you need to be able to flash things in or use abilities or play instants. That's the only way you can really take advantage of that mana. But it's got a built-in mana sink, so even if you don't have a way to use that mana, you have no instants in your hands, you have no other activated abilities or whatever, it does have a built-in way where if you make at least 6 mana, you can just funnel that mana into the ability and still get some value out of it, which I think is really good, again, especially for a format like Jumpstart, because the power level of Jumpstart is typically not all that high. Next up, we've got the red cards. This is Capital Guard, a 2/2 human soldier for 1 red and 1. That's it. Moving on. Next up, we've got Dragon Moose, a 3/3 dragon elk with haste for 1 red and 3. This isn't very powerful, but again, I know I keep saying but in Jumpstart, but it's true. But in Jumpstart, it might actually be good enough, and I do think it's interesting that it actually counts as a dragon. It's a non-flying dragon, and will turn on or trigger any of your dragon synergies, which I don't think there are any of those in Jumpstart specifically, but I still think it's pretty interesting. Next up, we've got Explosive Shot, a sorcery for 1 red and 1, and it deals 4 damage to target creature. Pretty run-of-the-mill removal here. It's just going to kill their big problematic threats as long as it's less than 5 toughness. Next up, we've got Fire Nation Soldier. This is a 3/2 human soldier with haste for 1 red and 2. I think this one's a little bit better. It's more aggressively costed. It's going to help you just whittle down your opponent's life total that much quicker. Next up, we've got Komodo Rhino, a 5/2 lizard rhino with trample for 1 red and 3. I have to say that evasion is a very limited commodity when it comes to Jumpstart, it seems, so any kind of evasion is going to be at a premium. This guy having trample is very relevant because of that, so don't sleep on this if you end up playing Jumpstart. Next up, we've got Run Amok, an instant for 1 red and 1. Target attacking creature gets +3/+3 and gains trample until end of turn. Pretty normal combat trick here. The trample is nice, especially in something like Jumpstart, where you can just out of nowhere get through with some sneaky damage, maybe kill their guy as well, and have your guy survive, which can be a lot of value if you stack it all up together. Next up, we've got Warship Scout. This is a 2/1 human scout for 1 red mana. If I've said it before, I'll say it again. We've come a long way since Savannah Lions. Next up, we've got Zukos Offense, a sorcery for 1 red. Zukos Offense? Zukos Offense. I guess you can pronounce offense either way, right? It just has a different connotation depending on how you pronounce it. This is definitely Zukos Offense. 1 red for a sorcery, just deals 2 damage to any target. It's kind of like a shock, except sorcery speed instead of instant. It is worth noting though, this can bring your opponent from 2 life to 0 and just win the game for you under certain circumstances. Next up, we've got Fire Nation's Conquest, an enchantment for 1 red and 2, and creatures you control simply get +1/+0. This is a very understated, overcosted anthem effect. That being said, it's a red anthem, which we don't see very often, and it's in Jumpstart. I know I keep saying that, and that shouldn't be an excuse, but Jumpstart just tends to be much lower power level, and this could actually be very relevant, especially if you end up pairing this with a half deck that helps you go super wide with as many creatures as possible. Maybe that waterbending stuff that we were talking about earlier. It could end up being that much better if you do that. Next up, we've got Iroh. Is it Iroh or Eero? You're going to have to let me know in the comments. I've only watched a very limited amount of Avatar The Last Airbender through the years, so I don't know how to pronounce everything correctly. Iroh Firebending Mentor. Sorry, Firebending Instructor. Why did I say Mentor? I definitely need coffee. I need to finish this video and have some coffee, because I am losing it. This is a 2/2 legendary human noble ally for 1 red and 2. And when Iroh attacks, attacking creatures get +1/+1 until end of turn. I like that it doesn't say other attacking creatures, so it will give itself +1/+1, which means it swings as a 3/3 for 3, which honestly isn't that bad if you're also buffing up the entire rest of your team. It doesn't block very well, so you're definitely going to want to be in a very aggressive deck. If you have to hold this guy back to block, you're going to be very, very sad. But if you can just keep being aggressive and piling on the damage, I actually think this guy's pretty good for a Jumpstart card. Next up, we've got Loyal Fire Sage, a 3/3 human cleric ally with Firebending 1 for 1 red and 2. So every single time this guy attacks, he's going to generate 1 red mana, but that red mana only lasts until the end of the combat. So like I said before, you have to have ways to spend this, either spells to cast that are instants, things to flash in at instant speed, or abilities that you can funnel mana into at instant speed and use whenever you want in the middle of combat. So he does have a mana sink kind of tacked onto him as well. Pay 5 mana, create a 1/1 white ally creature token. So as long as you have another 4 mana set aside, or maybe some more firebenders that you're swinging with, you'll be able to at least add up all of that mana, dump it into your 5 mana ability, and make a 1/1. So swinging with a 3/3 for 3 and making a 1/1 every time isn't all that awful. That being said, you really do need to double down on firebending to get the most out of a card like this, because if you have to use like 4 of your lands every turn to just make a 1/1 and you're not playing your cards instead, you are going to fall behind on tempo. But still, having a mana outlet like this, especially later on in the game when maybe you're out of gas, can still be super valuable. Next up, we've got Rokus Mastery, an instant for 2 red and X. It deals X damage to target creature, and if X is 4 or greater, you also get to scry 2. I think this is pretty good. I don't think it's like amazing. It only deals damage to a creature. You can't use it as a win condition, but it does offer a lot of value, right? As long as you dump a total of 6 mana into this, you're dealing 4 damage to something and killing it, and scrying 2, which 6 mana is a lot, right? 6 mana is a real lot. I like that it scales. I like that you can hit smaller things if you've only got a little bit of mana, or that you can scale this up and hit something absolutely massive if you have a ton of mana. And if you hit that certain threshold of X equaling 4 or greater, you do get the scry. It's not awful. It's not great, but it's not awful. And I do feel like removal is somewhat limited in Jumpstart, so this will probably be at a premium and be really worth it. Next up, we've got Zho The Sthing Flame. I think I pronounced that one correctly. This is a 5/5 legendary human soldier with menace for 1 red and 4. It's just a big body with evasion. But again, evasion is somewhat limited when it comes to Jumpstart, so anything that gives you even a little inkling of evasion is probably going to be a little bit better in a format like this, so the menace is pretty relevant. And when you consider that, it seems fairly cost. Then we've got Fire Nation Archers, a 3/4 human archer with reach for 1 red and 3. This is our first rare in red. It also has an ability to pay 5 mana to just deal 2 damage to each opponent and make a 2/2 soldier creature token, which is honestly a really good mana sink, especially for Jumpstart. Just being able to dump your mana into it, it obviously gets that much better if you have firebending cards that are swinging and generating mana for you, that you can then put that mana into this in the middle of combat, pump out a 2/2, deal some extra damage, can help you be super aggressive, especially if you're out of gas and have no more cards left to play. This is something you can easily dump all your extra mana into and get value every single turn. I think this might be one of the better cards when it comes to competing in Jumpstart. But next up, we've got Zuko, Avatar Hunter. I still need that coffee. A 4/5 legendary human noble with reach for 2 red and 3. And whenever you cast a red spell, you create a 2/2 red soldier creature token. I actually think this is kind of nuts. If you're not completely out of gas when you jam this, every single red spell you play makes a 2/2. Obviously, a card like this is going to get that much better if you pair 2 different half decks that are both red. If you have the ability to do that, this guy's going to be nuts. You also have to be very careful not to run out of gas before you play it. A lot of times by the time you drop your 5-drop, you don't really have that many spells left to cast to generate value. But if you somehow can, you could just make a ton of 2/2s and take over the game really quick. And Jumpstart isn't a super fast format, so you might actually have the breathing room to do something like that. Next up, we've got Explore. We're moving on to the green cards. This is a sorcery for 1 green and 1. You may play an additional land this turn, and you draw a card. Not too shabby. Next up, we've got Frog Squirrels, a 2/2 frog squirrel with reach for 1 green and 1. Moving on, we have Hippo Cows. This is a 5/4 hippo ox with trample for 1 green and 4. Again, just want to point out that evasion, very, very important in a format like this. So do not overlook Hippo Cows. Next up, we've got Earthbending Student. I actually think this one's pretty good. A 1/3 human warrior ally for 1 green and 2, and when it enters, you get to Earthbend 2. The way Earthbending works is you target a land you control to become a 0/0 creature with haste. It's still a land, and then you put a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the Earthbending number. So in this case, 2. You'll turn one of your lands into a 2/2 that has haste, and it can swing in and attack that turn. Another caveat of Earthbending is if that creature dies, it comes back as the normal land, which is actually super, super good. The fact that you don't lose that value, that land value, and potentially you can even get to re-trigger landfall abilities by having something that you earthbended die and then putting itself back on the battlefield because it was earthbended, could be really, really nuts. I don't really think that's going to be relevant in Jumpstart per se. I haven't seen any landfall abilities, but I do think in general the earthbending ability is really, really good, and I expect to see a bunch of really cool standard decks using earthbending as soon as this set launches for sure. This guy also has another ability where land creatures you control have vigilance. So not only are you creating a 2/2 out of one of your lands that can come back as a normal land when it dies, but it's a 2/2 vigilance. And every land creature you make, the more you earthbend, the more value you get out of that. They're all going to have vigilance, which means they can swing in and then still be used for mana. Or they can swing in, you can say go, you can use them as blockers, and then after blocks you could still use them for mana to play something at instant speed. So a lot of potential, a lot of versatility in a card like this. Next up, we've got Eel Hounds, a 4/2 fish dog with trample for 1 green and 3. Whenever this creature attacks, another target creature you control gets +2/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. We've already talked about any form of evasion being at somewhat of a premium in a format like Jumpstart. The fact that this thing has trample and hands out a buff that comes with trample when it attacks makes this guy especially good in a format like this. So if you get the opportunity to run him, definitely run him. Next up, we've got Match the Odds. This is another sorcery lesson for 1 green and 2. You create a 1/1 white ally creature token and put a +1/+1 counter on it for each creature your opponents control. It's actually pretty interesting. You just get a bigger creature based on how wide your opponent's board state is. It can kind of help you come back a little bit against like a devastating board that your opponent has built by giving you a huge creature for just 3 mana. Potentially. Maybe. Pretty interesting card. I also want to point out the fact that we're not getting any learn spells in this set at all. So back in the day when they first debuted lessons, there were also learn cards, and you could have lessons in your sideboard, and if you did, whenever you played a learn card, you could fetch a lesson from your sideboard and put it into your hand. So lessons were way better if you had learn cards. No learn cards in this set at all. These lessons are things that you have to play in your main deck, but they do have a bunch of synergies that they've built into other cards, at least in the standard legal set, that are going to interact and synergize with lessons. So there will be other bits and pieces of value to get out of lessons being lessons, even though we won't have learn spells. I think that's pretty interesting, but I'm kind of hoping we get actual learn spells down the road in standard to use the standard lessons with, and that would be pretty nuts if that happens. Return to Strixhaven. Crossing my fingers. Next up, we've got Boomy Eclectic Earthbender. Is it Boomy? Did I pronounce it right? I don't know how to pronounce these names. I apologize. This guy's a 4/4 legendary human noble ally for 2 green and 3. When he enters, you get to Earthbend 1, and whenever Boomy attacks, you put 2 +1/+1 counters on each land creature you control. So obviously this is another card that gets even better the more earthbending you have, the more you can utilize land creatures, just like the guy we just saw not too long ago that gives out the vigilance. And obviously if you have these two dudes in the same deck, they're going to be able to, you know, cross-pollinate their synergies and do some pretty crazy stuff, which seems really good. Putting 2 +1/+1 counters on every land creature every time you swing could very quickly take over the board if your opponent doesn't deal with this. Next up, we've got Seismic Toutelage, an enchantment aura that enchants a creature for 1 green and 3. When this aura enters, you put a +1/+1 counter on enchanted creature, and whenever enchanted creature attacks, double the number of +1/+1 counters on it. I like that you get value right away. It at least puts a counter on it right away. But then that value gets really insane if your opponent doesn't kill the creature. It just starts to exponentially increase every turn, doubling to 2, and then 4, and then 8, and eventually becoming such a big threat that your opponent's just not going to be able to deal with it unless they've got removal. That being said, if you do happen to be lucky enough to get one of those creatures with evasion, the tramplers, the menace guys, a couple of the flying guys, whatever, obviously dumping this on one of those is going to be that much better, especially on the trample creatures. Pretty interesting card. That being said, it does have the downside of pretty much every aura in existence, which is if you put this on your creature and then your opponent kills that creature, they kind of 2-for-1'd you. They got rid of the creature and they got rid of your aura for just one removal spell. So you do have to be kind of careful when playing cards like this. Try to wait for when your opponent's out of gas. Next up, we've got the Cabbage Merchant, a 2/2 legendary human citizen for 1 green and 2. And whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, you get to make a food, which could potentially gain you a ton of life over the course of the game if you just keep making foods every single time they cast a non-creature spell. But also, whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, you have to sacrifice a food. So if you want to get the life, you kind of have to use it right away before they deal damage to you. And the upside to that is you get the life that kind of makes up for the damage they're going to deal with the creature. So you kind of just get to stay at the same life total and not lose life, even though your opponent is being super aggressive and swinging in at you all the time. But the downside is you have to sack those foods right away to make sure you get that life before they go away. Otherwise, they're getting sacrificed when those creatures deal damage to you, and you're losing the ability to gain life off them. That being said, if you can get yourself into a really good board position where your opponent can't safely tack in and isn't going to be doing damage to you, you get to stockpile those foods and just get more and more and more. And that's relevant for this guy's last ability, which lets you tap 2 untapped foods you control to add 1 mana of any color. Actually super powerful. So again, if you can go wide enough with a very defensive board state where your opponent's not going to be able to get through for damage, you could just add tons of food tokens over the course of however many turns and ramp your mana to an insane degree while still having the possibility of sacrificing those foods to gain life later if you actually need to gain life later on in the game. So this guy could do a ton if he's allowed the breathing room to actually work, and I think he's really good. Next up, we have the last card that is an exclusive in Jumpstart. This is Hog Monkey Rampage, an instant for 2 mana in the colors of Gruul. It's 1 colorless and 1 hybrid. This is the only multicolor card in the Jumpstart set that is a Jumpstart exclusive. You choose target creature you control and target creature an opponent controls, put a +1/+1 counter on the creature you control if it has power 4 or greater, and then those creatures fight each other. So it's essentially a 2 mana fight spell that might give you a +1/+1 counter, which I guess is pretty good. Removal is removal, and it's going to be at a premium. You're going to want as much of it as you can get when it comes to a format like Jumpstart. Being able to get rid of their thing and maybe get a little bit of value as well, getting the +1/+1 counter. But most importantly, this is instant speed. You can use it as a trick in the middle of combat, catch your opponent with their pants down, and maybe go on to win the game. But that's going to do it for this spoiler video. I do want to point out that there are a bunch of other cards in all of the Jumpstart half decks. It's just they're not Jumpstart exclusive. So there are a bunch of like commons and uncommons that are standard legal that are going to be in the normal standard boosters that will also be in these Jumpstart half decks. We didn't cover those cards. We only covered the exclusives. That being said, there are a ton more spoilers on the way. We have a Spider-Man spoiler video that I still have to make, and I've caught word of a rumor that there's going to be some more Avatar spoilers dropping real soon. So as soon as all that stuff drops, I'll make sure to get it out to you guys ASAP. And there's also a ton of deck techs on the way. So if you haven't already, please like this video. It helps me so much more than you could possibly imagine. And subscribe if you're new so you don't miss any of that content that's coming. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for checking out my channel. I'd like to give a huge shout out to all of my patrons over at Patreon. Without you guys, this channel would not be possible, so honestly, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of your contributions. If you haven't yet, like and subscribe. The more likes we get and the quicker we get them, the bigger this channel will grow and the faster it will grow. I'd love nothing more than this channel to become something very special for you guys, but it's entirely up to you how fast that happens. Also, if you'd like more deck text, that's somewhere over there. And if you'd like to see what else the channel's been up to lately, that's somewhere up that way. Also, subscribe, circle below, do all the things.